My family went to my birthday dinner without me and posted photos. I texted, "Save me some cake." Then I cut them off financially. 1 month later, they are threatening me to pay their rent and bills are due. I, 29M, never thought I'd be writing this, but here we are. Last month was my birthday, and apparently my entire family celebrated it without me. I found out through Instagram stories. My own fucking birthday dinner, and I wasn't even invited. Let me back up a bit. I've been the family ATM for the past 5 years. My parents, my 2 siblings, even my uncle, they all come to me when money gets tight. And it gets tight a lot. I work in tech, make decent money, and somehow became the designated family savior. Mom's car breaks down. Call me. Dad's unemployment runs out. Call me. Sister needs rent money. Call me. Brother wants to go back to school, but doesn't want loans. Call me. I never really minded before. Family is family, right? I grew up poor, and when I finally made it, I wanted to help. But there's a difference between helping and being taken advantage of. The birthday thing started innocently enough. Mom called me 2 weeks before my birthday asking what I wanted to do. I suggested we all go to that new steakhouse downtown. My treat, as usual. She said she'd coordinate with everyone and get back to me. Days passed. I texted her asking about the plan. She said she was still figuring out everyone's schedules. The day before my birthday, I called again. Mom sounded weird, distracted. She told me they were having trouble coordinating everyone and maybe we should postpone. I was disappointed but said okay, we could do it the following weekend instead. My actual birthday came and went quietly. I worked late, grabbed takeout, watched Netflix. Not exactly exciting, but I figured we'd celebrate soon enough. Then around 9 p.m., I opened Instagram to mindlessly scroll before bed. That's when I saw it. My sister had posted a story from inside the exact steakhouse I had suggested. The place I was supposed to take everyone. I could see the table, mom, dad, both siblings, my uncle, even my cousin who lives 3 hours away. They were all there, laughing, raising glasses and a toast. My stomach dropped. I kept watching, hoping this was some coincidence, some other celebration. Then my brother posted a video of them singing happy birthday to an empty chair. An empty fucking chair. The caption read, "Wish you were here, bro. We're celebrating for you." I sat there staring at my phone for probably 10 minutes, trying to process what I was seeing. They had planned my birthday dinner, gone to my restaurant choice, and deliberately excluded me. The empty chair wasn't some touching tribute, it was mockery. But the kicker? The absolute fucking kicker? When the server brought out a birthday cake, my dad posted a video of himself cutting it with the caption, "Someone's gotta eat the birthday boy slice." That's when I lost it. I was shaking with rage and humiliation. My own family had turned my birthday into some kind of joke. I typed out about 15 different angry messages and deleted them all. Finally, I settled on something that felt appropriately petty. Save me some cake. Within minutes, the responses started flowing. My sister texted saying they missed me and wished I could have made it. My brother said they tried to invite me but couldn't reach me. Mom called, but I didn't answer. They were all acting like this was some miscommunication, like they hadn't deliberately planned this without me. The lies made it worse. If they had just said they wanted a family dinner without me, it would have hurt, but at least it would have been honest. Instead, they were gaslighting me, acting like I was the one who screwed up. I spent the weekend stewing in my anger. By Monday morning, I had made my decision. I logged into my bank account and canceled every single recurring transfer I had set up for my family. Mom's monthly grocery allowance, gone. Dad's car payment help, canceled. My sister's rent assistance, stopped. My brother's school expense money, done. Over the years, these payments had become so routine I barely noticed them leaving my account. But when I added them up, I was sending my family over $4,000 a month. $4,000. Every month. For years. And they couldn't even invite me to my own birthday dinner. I also called my credit card company and removed my family members as authorized users. My sister used that card for everything. My parents had it for emergencies that seemed to happen weekly. Not anymore. Then I waited. It took exactly 12 days for the calls to start. Mom first, asking why her grocery money didn't come through. I told her I was reevaluating my finances. She didn't push, probably thinking it was temporary. Dad called 3 days later about his car payment. I gave him the same line about reevaluating. He grumbled, but hung up. My sister was next, panicking because her rent was due and her card got declined. This time I was more direct. I told her I was scaling back my financial support for everyone. She asked if this was about the birthday thing, and I said it wasn't any one thing, just a decision I needed to make for myself, which wasn't entirely true. It was absolutely about the birthday thing, but it was also about years of being taken for granted, treated like a bank account instead of a family member. My brother called last, furious that his tuition payment had bounced. He demanded to know what my problem was, accused me of being vindictive and immature. I hung up on him. For a few weeks after that, there were scattered calls and texts, guilt trips about family loyalty, reminders of all the times they'd been there for me, though they couldn't seem to name any specific instances. Mom cried on the phone about how disappointed she was in me. Dad gave me the silent treatment. But here's what none of them did: apologize for the birthday dinner. Not one of them acknowledged how fucked up that was. They were all focused on the money I was withholding, not the behavior that led to it. The irony wasn't lost on me. They were proving my point with every conversation. Update 1. It's been exactly 1 month since I cut them off, and the desperation is really setting in now. The guilt trips have escalated to threats, and I'm honestly shocked at how ugly this has gotten. It started 3 days ago when my sister showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, clothes wrinkled, dark circles under her eyes. She pushed past me into my living room and immediately launched into this whole sob story about how she was going to be evicted, how she couldn't afford groceries, how this was all my fault. I let her talk for a while, then asked her the same question I'd been asking everyone. Did she want to apologize for the birthday dinner? She looked at me like I was insane. She said she couldn't believe I was still hung up on that stupid dinner when she was facing homelessness. That word, stupid. My hurt feelings were stupid, but her rent crisis was a matter of life and death. I told her she needed to leave. She refused, said she wasn't going anywhere until I came to my senses and resumed the payments. I had to threaten to call the police before she finally stormed out, screaming about how I'd changed, how money had made me heartless. Yesterday, Dad called with a different approach. He told me that Mom had been having chest pains from the stress, that the financial pressure was literally making her sick. He said if something happened to her, it would be on my head. Then he started crying. Actually crying, talking about how he didn't understand where he'd gone wrong as a father. The manipulation was so transparent, it was almost insulting. But it still got to me. I've never heard my father cry before. I asked him if he remembered my birthday. He got quiet for a long time, then said that was ancient history, that we needed to focus on the present crisis. Ancient history. It had been 5 weeks. But the real escalation came this morning. My brother sent me a text that crossed every line imaginable. He said he knew where I worked, knew my schedule, knew I walked to the coffee shop every morning at 8:30. He said if I didn't resume the payments by Friday, he was going to make sure everyone at my office knew what kind of person I really was. He was threatening to come to my workplace. My brother, the one whose entire college experience I've been funding, was threatening me. I screenshotted the text and took it straight to HR. They've been incredible, actually. Security knows to watch for him, and they've moved my parking spot to the secured garage. My manager suggested I work from home for a while if needed. The thing is, I'm not scared of my brother. He's all bluster, always has been. But the fact that he would even make threats like that tells me everything I need to know about who these people really are. I also talked to a lawyer friend about the text. She said it could potentially be considered harassment or extortion, and I should keep documenting everything. Part of me wonders if it'll come to that. The hardest part is the isolation. These people were my whole family, my entire support system. Now I'm completely alone, and they're acting like I'm the villain in this story. Some days I wonder if I'm being too harsh, if I should just forgive and forget and go back to being their ATM. But then I remember that empty chair. I remember them singing happy birthday to a fucking empty chair and posting it online for everyone to see. I remember that not one of them has apologized or even acknowledged why I might be hurt. And I remember that in 5 weeks of begging for money, not one of them has asked how I'm doing. Update 2. Holy shit, you guys. I don't even know where to start with what happened this week. Remember how I said my brother was all bluster? Yeah, well, I was wrong about that. He showed up at my office on Friday. I was in a meeting when security called my extension. They had someone in the lobby asking for me, claiming to be my brother. I told them I wasn't expecting him and didn't want to see him. They said he was being insistent and causing a scene. I went down with 2 security guards, thinking I'd just tell him to leave and that would be it. But the second he saw me, he started yelling. In the middle of our corporate lobby, with clients and coworkers everywhere, he started screaming about how I was destroying our family, how I was letting mom get sick from stress, how I was a selfish piece of shit who'd forgotten where I came from. The security guards moved in immediately, but he kept yelling as they escorted him out. He was screaming my full name, my salary, which I'd stupidly told him years ago, and telling anyone who would listen that I was letting my family become homeless while I lived in luxury. I was mortified. My face was burning as I walked back to the elevator, feeling every eye in that lobby on me. My manager called me into her office an hour later. She was incredibly professional about it, but she had to ask what was going on. I gave her the basics: family financial dispute. I'd cut off support. They weren't taking it well. She was understanding, but I could tell she was concerned. This is exactly the kind of drama that companies hate. I've worked so hard to build my reputation here, and my brother nearly destroyed it in 5 minutes of screaming. But that wasn't even the worst part. That evening, I came home to find my apartment door jimmied open. My first thought was burglary, so I called the police before going inside. When the cops arrived and we searched the place together, nothing was missing. Nothing. My laptop, my TV, my expensive watch collection, all untouched. Instead, someone had gone through my personal papers. My desk drawers were rifled through, my filing cabinet was open, and my mail was scattered across the dining table. Whoever did this was looking for something specific. The officer asked if I had any idea who might have done this or what they might have been looking for. That's when it hit me: my bank statements, my financial documents, my tax returns. All the papers that would show exactly how much money I make and have saved. I told the cop about the family situation, the threats, my brother showing up at work. He took notes and said they'd investigate, but without proof of who did it, there wasn't much they could do immediately. I spent Saturday getting new locks installed and a security system set up. The locksmith said whoever broke in knew what they were doing. Very little damage, clean work. He suggested it might have been someone with experience or someone who'd had access to my place before. That's when I realized my sister has had my spare key for 2 years. For emergencies, I'd said. To water my plants when I traveled. I never got that key back when I cut them off. Sunday afternoon, Mom called. This conversation was different from all the others. She wasn't crying or guilt-tripping. She was eerily calm, almost businesslike. She told me they knew exactly how much I made, how much I had saved, how much I'd been holding back from the family while they struggled. She said they'd talked to a lawyer who told them that in some states, family members have legal obligations to support each other. She said they were considering pursuing legal action to force me to resume the payments. I told her they were welcome to try, but they'd be wasting their money. She said it wasn't about winning in court, it was about the public record. Court documents are public, she reminded me. My employer might be interested to know I was being sued by my own family for abandoning them financially. The threat was clear: pay us or we'll destroy your career. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer friend. She said the legal threat was bullshit. There's no law requiring adult children to support their parents or siblings in our state. But she was concerned about the harassment angle and the break-in. She suggested I file for a restraining order. So that's where I am now. I'm working from home this week while my company's security team reviews the lobby incident. I'm living in an apartment that no longer feels safe, with new locks and cameras everywhere. I'm preparing legal documents against my own family. And through all of this, the break-in, the threats, the public humiliation, not one of them has apologized for that fucking birthday dinner. Update 3. I never thought I'd be back here with another update, but the situation has completely exploded in ways I never could have imagined. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and somehow things have gotten both much worse and much better, if that makes any sense. First, the restraining order went through. My lawyer was right. The combination of the workplace harassment, the break-in, and the escalating threats was more than enough for a judge to grant it. My parents, siblings, and uncle are all legally required to stay away from me, my home, and my workplace. The day after I served them with the papers, my phone started buzzing with notifications. Someone had created a GoFundMe titled, "Help a Family Abandoned by Their Successful Son." I shit you not. They'd posted a long sob story about how their ungrateful son had cut them off financially over a minor family disagreement, leaving them facing eviction and starvation. But here's the kicker: they used my full name. And my photo. A photo from my company's website where I'm identified as a senior developer. They basically doxed me on a crowdfunding platform while playing the victims. The comments section was brutal. Half the people were calling me a monster for abandoning my family. The other half were asking why grown adults needed their son to pay all their bills. Someone had apparently done some digging and found my LinkedIn because there were comments about my salary and my company. I was fucking livid. I immediately reported it to GoFundMe for using my name and photo without permission. It took them 3 days to take it down, but not before it had been shared on Facebook and Twitter. My name was out there, connected to this whole mess. But then something unexpected happened. Someone who'd seen the GoFundMe reached out to me directly. Turns out it was a former coworker who recognized my name. He'd left my company 6 months ago to start his own consulting firm, and he'd been following this whole drama online. Instead of judging me, he offered me a job. He said he'd been looking for someone with my skills, and frankly, he was impressed by how I'd handled the situation. He said anyone who could set boundaries with family could definitely handle difficult clients. The offer was 40% more than my current salary, full remote work, and equity in the company. I put in my notice yesterday. My current manager was disappointed to lose me, but completely understood given everything that had happened. She even offered to be a reference and said I was welcome back anytime. It was a relief to leave on good terms after all the drama my family had caused there. But the real bombshell came when I was cleaning out my desk. Security handed me an envelope that had been delivered that morning. Inside was a letter from my sister, a real, handwritten letter. She was writing from a friend's house because she'd been evicted 3 days earlier. But instead of blaming me or demanding money, she was apologizing. Really, genuinely apologizing. She said she'd been thinking about everything that had happened, especially after seeing the reaction to the GoFundMe. She said she'd started to realize how entitled they'd all become, how they'd stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as just a source of money. She wrote about the birthday dinner, said she'd known it was wrong at the time, but went along with it because she was angry that I made so much money while she struggled. She said they'd all convinced themselves I wouldn't care, that I'd probably prefer not to come anyway since I always seemed tired when we got together. That last part hit me hard because it was probably true. I had been tired during family gatherings, tired of being hit up for money, tired of being treated like an ATM, tired of every conversation revolving around who needed what. But the most shocking part of the letter was what she revealed about our parents. Apparently, they'd been telling her and my brother for years that I liked being the family provider, that it made me feel important and needed. They'd been framing my financial support as some kind of ego trip rather than the sacrifice it actually was. She said she'd never realized I might have wanted to use that money for my own life. Travel, a house, dating, whatever. She said they'd all just assumed I had unlimited money and no personal desires. The letter ended with her saying she was getting a second job and moving in with roommates, that she was going to figure out how to support herself without depending on anyone. She said she hoped someday I might forgive her, but she understood if I never wanted to see any of them again. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes after reading that letter, just crying. It was the first time anyone in my family had really acknowledged my perspective, the first time anyone had apologized for the birthday dinner, the first time anyone had recognized that I was a person with my own needs and feelings. I don't know what I'm going to do about my sister. The restraining order is still in place, and honestly, I'm not ready to trust any of them yet. But her letter gives me hope that maybe not everyone in my family is completely toxic. As for the others, my parents and brother have apparently doubled down on their victim narrative. According to my sister's letter, they're telling everyone who will listen that I've been brainwashed by money and success, that I've turned my back on my family values. My brother is apparently working part-time at a grocery store and living in my parents' basement, complaining constantly about how this is all my fault. My parents are looking at selling their house and downsizing, which they probably should have done years ago instead of relying on their son to subsidize their lifestyle. I start my new job on Monday. I'm also looking at apartments in a different part of town, somewhere my family doesn't know about. I want a completely fresh start. The weird thing is, despite all the drama and pain, I feel lighter than I have in years. For the first time since I started making decent money, I'm not dreading the end of the month when all the family payments would come out. I'm not fielding constant calls about emergencies and crises. I'm not being guilt-tripped about every purchase I make for myself. I bought a new car last week. Nothing crazy, just something reliable and comfortable. But it's the first major purchase I've made in years without feeling guilty about it. without thinking about how that money could have helped my family instead. It's fucked up that it took a fake birthday dinner and months of harassment for me to realize I deserved to live my own life. I still think about that empty chair sometimes. But now instead of feeling humiliated, I feel something else, grateful. Grateful that they showed me exactly who they were. Grateful that they forced me to finally set boundaries. Grateful that I found out before I wasted even more years being their personal bank account. Maybe someday I'll have a relationship with some of them again. Maybe my sister and I can rebuild something real. But for now, I'm focusing on myself for the first time in half a decade. And you know what? It feels pretty fucking good. If you'd like to see more stories like this, a gentle tap on the subscribe and hype button would mean the world to us. Please subscribe and press the hype button. Thanks in advance.